Dandavat pranams. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Krishna. My Dandavat pranams to everybody. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Special day today, Shiva-Ratri, and we'll attempt to honor him to the best of our ability. Okay, we'll have a kirtan first. Oh, it's the 9th of March. You all nod so enthusiastically like it is.
2024.
2024. 9th of March, Saturday, 2024. Okay. You have to give me confidence, you know? I'm asking you. I'm just checking. And Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Oh Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hey Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Oh Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Oh Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo, Oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Oh Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Oh Nitai He, Nitai He, Nitai He, oh Nitai He, Nitai He, Nitai He, Nitai He, Nitai He. Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He. Oh Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Hey Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhare, Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Brishabhana Nandini Bajeshwari Radharani Ki Jai, Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Satchinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Surabhi Kunj ki jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Shila Gopeshwa Mahadev ki jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarzara Shishimat, Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Mahabhagavat Paramahamsa Shila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Acharya Ki Jai. Jai Shila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai. Jai Shila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhata Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shrilahardas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Siga Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautam Dvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Ritujit Janadvip Motamdvip Vududvip Atmaka Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dvarasa Varmatmika Shri Brajamandal Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Brinda Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Srimati Punamasi Yogamaya Maharani Ki Jai. Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai. Gopishwa Mahadev Avirbhav Ki Jai. Siva-Ratri Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai. Ketra Mandal Ki Jai. Sarva Vigna Vinashakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Prava Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charidam Ki Jai. Chari Sampradaya Ki Jai. Chari Acharya Ki Jai. Akara Matraj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Keshavji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gauda Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Surupe Daita Surupe Prema Surupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Prabhuika Rupe Tatana Rupe Swabila Surupe Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunavartino Kalo Samarpaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundaratu Dikatam Vasudipita Sada Hridare Kandare Suratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantam Anapaityam Apaitya Krityam Dvaipayana Virahara Karvurha Putreti Tammayatayo Tarabo Vinedustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Shiptascha Karmadita Rangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vajami Radam Aravinda Netram Smarami Radam Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radam Karuna Paradram Tato Mamanasti Katyana Kapi Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat Pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimat, Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasara Shishimat, Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And I'm offering the same again unto our dearmost Namo Bhakti Vinodaya, Satchitananda Namane, Gauda Shakti Swarupaya, Rupanuga Varayate, and to all our esteemed, illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya, and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavnavyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. So today, a very sacred day. Always the kripa, the mercy of Mahadev is tangible. We can always appreciate it very much in the atmosphere if we're remembering Mahadev, if we're remembering Shivji and all his quantities of service to the Supreme Lord. Shivji is ultimately coming directly from the body of Krishna, just as Radhika comes directly from Krishna's form. Radhika comes from the left side of Krishna as Swarup Shakti, and immediately she runs towards Krishna to serve him. And from the right side is manifesting Shivji, Gopeshwar Mahadev, in order to act as the Ketrapal, the protector of the Ras Leela pastime. Krishna desires to have the Ras Leela pastime. And in order to execute that, there must be a Ketrapal, there must be a god. There are many entities that have manifested in the world. So that Ras Leela is a completely confidential pastime. So that has to have a gatekeeper. And even today, for the Vaishnavas, we understand that to gain entrance into Vrindavan, we need the mercy of Gopeshwar Mahadev. He will give us that mercy in. When we visit Vrindavan, we go to Gopeshwar Mahadev Mandir, and then just a little bit close by there, maybe 200 or 300 yards to the onto the Jamuna side, we come to Vamsivat. And in Vamsivat, there's a beautiful courtyard, and within the courtyard, in one of the corners, there is Gopeshwar Mahadev, resplendent in all her potent beauty is there. So today, most assuredly, Vamsivat was filled with devotees seeking the mercy of Gopeshwar Mahadev. So this is the first manifestation of Shivji that we should always consider. Shivji comes in four manifestations, four separate um, personalities. It's the same um, personality, it's the same essence, the same seed. He manifests first as Gopeshwar Mahadev, and then secondly as Sada Shiva. Sada means eternal. It's that eternal Shiva that resides beyond the Viraja river in the spiritual domain, in Kailash, with Parvati and all his followers that are there in the spiritual realm. And then the third appearance is as Shambhu. Shambhu acts like the link, really, between the spiritual worlds and the material worlds. We know that from Baladev Prabhu, Sankarshan manifests, and from Sankarshan, the two quadruple expansions of Vasudev, Aniruddha, Pradumna, and Sankarshan himself. And then he manifests into the Lord Narayan and the three Purusha avatars coming from Lord Narayan. And it's Karnadoksha Vishnu, who is manifested by Sankarshan. Karnadoksha Vishnu, he, in his pastime to manifest the worlds, he glances towards Maya Devi. He glances towards the personality of that illusory energy. This form of Maya Devi is ultimately a manifestation from Swarup Shakti. All is manifesting from Swarup Shakti, as we've been discussing closely in chapter 14 of our Jaiva Dharma. Everything ultimately is manifesting from Swarup Shakti except Gopeshwar Mahadev. Gopeshwar Mahadev comes directly from Krishna. So there's a distinction here. This is why sometimes the devotees describe the tattva of Shivji as being very complex. And it is complex unless we're dedicated to pleasing Gopeshwar Mahadev. And then in the heart, realization and clarity will come on his position. So in the form of Shambhu, when Karanadakshay Vishnu, he glances towards the illusory energy for his pastime's sake. Actually, it's described that Mahavishnu has a little scent of contamination because he glances at the material energy. But this is for the pastime's sake of beginning this world, beginning the material worlds. So this glance is actually initiated by Ramadevi, who is the consort of Karanadakshay Vishnu, Mahavishnu. She's the consort. And the potency of that glance is embodied in the um, coming from the Shakti of Ramadev, his wife, who of course is coming directly from Swarup Shakti. And then um, this glance is to be carried into the material world, or to ignite the manifestation of the material world. So actually, it's a reflected glance, Shambhu. But Shambhu, he's carrying this glance. It's described that he's the Abbas, he's the halo of the glance, carrying the seed. Within the seed contains the jiva, all jivas in existence, and time. These are the two constituents, the ingredients of the seed is time and the jiva. And Shambhu, his counterpart, his wife, so to speak, is Durgama. And she's represented initially as the pradhan. The pradhan is the unmanifest state. We can imagine in a mother's womb, before she's impregnated, she has all the ingredients to produce a child. But until the seed comes in the womb, no child can be produced. So those ingredients before the seed comes is called the pradhan. That's the unmanifested nature. So when the seed comes from Shambhu, he's carrying that seed, and the seed is planted within his wife, Durgama. It's called the Udara Shakti, which is like her womb, because we see the Shiva Lingam, the representative of the phallic symbol, and the yoni is around the base of the Shiva Lingam. So this is actually the pastime of the whole of creation as we know it, coming from Shambhu. And he manifests that seed is planted within Durgama. And then the pradhan then becomes prakriti, which is material nature. Then it's described that due to the presence of time, which is within the seed that he's planting, then the three modes of nature are agitated. And then the entire mahotsava manifests. But it's Shambhu, or Shivji in the form of Shambhu, who is performing this remarkable service. Shivji being, we call it a Swa-amsa. Krishna is the Anksi. Krishna is the origin. And those that are coming from Krishna are called Swa, which means own, Swa-angsa. They are like Baladev, Korma, Varaha, Nrsimha, etc. They are all manifestations directly from the Anksi. We are Vibhinamsa. We are separated expansions from Krishna. We're not coming directly from Krishna. It's a very simple analogy. If you have a compass and you put the point in, the point is the Anksi of Krishna, the origin, and then you draw a circle, and the first circle is going to be the Swa-angsa. Those are directly manifesting from Krishna. And then you extend the compass and draw another circle, and they are the Vibhinamsa tattva. They are coming from the Swangsa. It's described actually that we come from Baladev Prabhu, but Baladev Prabhu is manifested from Swarup Shakti. So try to get the picture of how this actually happens. We can never understand it, as we said so many times, but we can appreciate the picture, so to speak, with our intelligence and have some support in there to hang the other various truths that we're hearing so we can reconcile it. So Shambhu, he's carrying that glance into the Udara Shakti of his wife, Durgama. and this is the beginning of creation. And Shambhu himself, it's described, he enters into the jiva's sattva. The sattva is the jiva's existence. When the jiva doesn't want to serve the Lord, the jiva manifests his own false identity, his own false ego. That false ego is manifested by Shambhu as the sattva, the existence potency, is coming through Shambhu. Shambhu is actually the manifesto, we can say, of the false ego itself. Without the false ego, the conditioned jiva can't begin to fulfill his desires of enjoying separately from Krishna. He has to have the false ego. So Shambhu, Shivji, is so merciful, he gives that false ego so the jiva can come bewildered and can indulge in his um, sensual desires, etc. This is why he's coming. So these are three manifestations that I've mentioned so far. Gopeshwar Mahadev, Sada Shiva, eternally residing in Kailash, and the third one is Shambhu. Shambhu is incredibly powerful personality, and he's the bridge bringing, connecting really all the um, conditioned jivas ultimately to the opportunity to cross over the Viraja River. Shambhu has his place in that junction between the worlds. That's what he's doing. And then from Shambhu is going to come the final manifestation is Rudradev. Rudradev. Oh, Shambhu, by the way, is the guna avatar of ignorance, the guna avatar of destruction of the worlds also through the personality of Rudra. So people consider this complex because there are so many divisions of Shivji, but really it's quite simple to appreciate four um, forms of Shivji. And there's a different Rudra in every universe. In every universe, and there are unlimited billions of universes manifesting from the pores of the skin of Mahavishnu. Unlimited billions, it's described. And within every universe, there's a Rudra Dev. And Rudra is described in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 12th chapter. I think it's the 12th or the 20th. I have to check that. I think maybe it's the 20th chapter. And he's described as, no, it's the 12th chapter, definitely. And he's described as Lord Brahma becomes very angry with the four Kumaras. His first sons are the four Kumaras. And he becomes very angry with them for not creating progeny. Lord Brahma's duty is to create progeny throughout the planets. That's his designated service. And he manifests his four sons, the Kumaras, to do that. But they don't want to do that. They're the personification of tapasya and yoga, like that. They are the personified forms of those practices, and they have no desire to procreate. They understand that that's going to be a distraction for them. So in Lord Brahma's impatient anger, he's trying to suppress his anger. He's trying not to let it come out. He's trying to control himself. But it comes out, pops out between his eyes as a little blue black boy who's crying piteously, as described. And he requests his father, Lord Brahma, oh, where do I reside? And who are my consorts? Lord Brahma, he gives him 11 consorts, Bhavani, Parvati. Who else? You think of the other wives of Lord Shivji? No. Uma, yes. I can't remember them all. Anyway, all these wives, by the way, when they leave their bodies, Lord Shiva honors them by taking the skeletons of their heads and hangs them around his neck. So the skulls of Lord Shiva, they're all the skulls of his previous wives. So then he's requested what where are his places of residence, and he's within the heart of all the jivas in the form of anger. The Rudra mentality means anger, and he's also like on a dark, stormy night in the ocean. He's represented by that. That is the Rudra manifestation. He's also represented as when you get heat stroke from the sun. This is also the um, Rudra manifestation. So there are different descriptions of his manifestation and different descriptions of his wives. And then Lord Brahma tells him to procreate. But what does he do? Because Shivji, he's attracting all the goblins and all the vampires and all those because he's very, very merciful. So he starts procreating all of these kinds of people. And Lord Brahma has to quickly come and say, no, no, Shanti, my son, don't create any more. Just sit in the forest and perform tapasya. So he does that because when he was procreating, all these strange people were ghosts and hobgob, etc. They were all manifesting. So Shivji, he remains in the forest in a mood of tapasya, offering benediction, um, serving the Lord. But the principle to appreciate about Lord Shiva is that he is Swa Angsa. He is manifesting from Krishna's own body, and all of the other Swamsas that I mentioned, Baladev, Korma, Varaha, etc., they are all sitting in the Shringadev, they're all sitting in their own Godhead. When they manifest in the here, they all come as the Supreme Lord. But Lord Shivji, he is unique because he doesn't sit in his own Godhead, even though he is Swangsa. But he doesn't act on that capacity. He doesn't sit in that capacity. He worships Lord Ram. He worships Sankarshan. These are his worshipable deities. The other personalities, Lord Nrsingadev and so on, Korma, they don't have Ishtadevs in the same way that they worship. They understand that they are portions of that Supreme Lord and they act in that capacity. But Shivji remarkably doesn't. He acts as a servant of the Supreme Lord always. So his dedicated love and affection to Krishna, it manifests in many different pastimes in this world. Principally, we can think of the pastime of Sankaracharya. Actually, this was such a um, onerous, a difficult, not a pleasant pastime to enact for Shivji. Shivji is the greatest lover of the Lord, and yet he was requested to preach impersonalism. Nirvishesh Brahm is the goal. He was requested by Krishna to do like this because Krishna had manifested as Lord Buddha, and Lord Buddha had driven the Vedic teachings out of India because he wanted to establish this philosophy of ahimsa, non-violence, on the back of this mood of nirvishesh Brahm. This was the way that, because all the Brahmanas were using the Vedic precepts to conduct yagyas, and in those yagyas they were killing the animals, and then they'd begun to eat the animals. So Krishna manifests as Buddha and says, no, no violence. But all the Vedic scriptures were pushed out of India at that time into Tibet, Vietnam, those places today. And when Shivji manifests, he preaches the same philosophy ultimately of impersonalism, Advaitavad, but he preaches it on the back of the Shastra. So he brings the Shastric teachings back into life in Bharatvash, in India. That's his contribution. That was what he was asked to do. But he's still preaching Advaitavad. He's still preaching that, even though when he leaves this world, he says, Bhaje Govinda, Bhaje Govinda, Bhaje Govinda. Just worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. He says like this. But his teachings are definitely Mayavad teachings. It's like covered Buddhism, it's how it's described. So he's teaching this. So this is not a pleasant service for him, and Shivji doesn't really want to do it, but he does it in the mood of it's pleasing to Krishna. Whatever is going to be pleasing to Krishna, I will do with his life and soul, whatever's pleasing to Krishna. So So many of Shivji's pastimes are of that same flavor of just pleasing Krishna. There are times even when it seems like he actually comes against Krishna directly. When there was a demon called Banasura. Banasura lived in a city called Shantipur, and he had a daughter called Usha. And when she reached teenage years, 16, 16, 15, 16, like that, romantic age, we can say, then she was lying in her bedroom with many girlfriends. And she had a wonderful dream about this incredible boy who came into her dream with lotus like eyes and looked just so beautiful. And she felt he was her eternal lover. And they consorted in her dream, and then he left. And then she woke up crying out, "Oh, my beloved, oh, my beloved." And all the other girls, they woke up and they thought, "Who are you talking about? There's no beloved here." Because she lived in a complete contained palace like a fortress that could not be, no male could enter there. Banasura was a very powerful demon. He had 1,000 arms because he had pleased Lord Shiva, and he would play drums for Lord Shiva when Lord Shiva danced his uh, Tandava Nataraj. Lord Shiva is called Nataraj. He's the king of dance. Krishna is Natavara. He's the master of dance, which is actually higher than Lord Shiva. So it's encouraging for us to appreciate the distinction between the two, even though ultimately they are like the same. It's like if we go to Harihara Ketra, we see Vishnu and Shivji in the one form, Hari Hara. So it's like that, but at the same time, there is a distinction. So in this pastime, Manasura had become very, very powerful with his 1,000 arms, and he was requesting Shiva to send him some opponent that he could fight with because his arms were anxious to engage in some sort of battle. And Lord Shiva chastised him, said he was so proud and puffed up because he was not utilizing his strength in service of the Lord. He was crashing mountains to pieces with his arms and so on. So his daughter was very much protected. He was very, very opulent personality because Lord Shiva will bestow so much opulence on his devotee. And Usha, his daughter, was in this guarded palace, and she was having this dream about this wonderful boy. And when all the other girls woke up, her dearest friend is called Chitraleka, and she was the daughter of the prime minister of Shantipur. She's a very smart girl. Anyway, she knew the art of bringing any man to her that she wanted through the um, what do you call astral airwaves. She could bring that person there directly, physically. So she questioned Usha, "Why are you calling out for your beloved? You haven't even seen a man, and yet you're calling out your beloved." And then she became very shy and she revealed her dream. And then Chitraleka immediately said, "Oh, I will draw lots of pictures and we'll discover who is this person that you're talking about. And whoever he is, I will bring him here." And then she began drawing all the demigods, all the yakshas, even all the different personalities of the universe. She began drawing all their faces. And when she came to the Vrishni dynasty, she drew Krishna. She drew Krishna. And immediately there was a reaction in Usha's heart. And then she drew his son, Pradumna. And then there was an even greater reaction. And then she drew his son, who is Aniruddha. Aniruddha is Krishna's grandson. So as soon as Aniruddha was there drawn, then Usha became most bashful. And then Chitraleka, she um, went through the airwaves and she brought Aniruddha into that palace in Shantipur. And they were remaining in the palace for quite a few months. It's described the whole Chaturmasya season. They were actually together. And Aniruddha was completely mesmerized by Usha. She totally served him fully, fully, fully in every single way possible and in a very chaste way. Nevertheless, she became pregnant during that relationship in the palace. And all the guards who were guarding the door were shocked. No, not even a smell of another male can enter this fortress while we're guarding here. And Banasura will probably kill us if he thinks that we've allowed someone to come in. So they immediately ran to Banasura. When Banasura heard, he immediately ran to the palace and he smashed open the doors of his daughter's chamber. And he saw her just sitting there with Aniruddha in a very comfortable manner, as if they're completely like lovers. And he thought initially, these are a beautiful pair, they completely fit with each other. But Aniruddha, being from the Vrishni dynasty and very powerful, he saw that Manasura had come with all his soldiers, so he picked up a huge iron rod that was there, and he took a stance in front of Banasura that he was going to fight if he was going to send his soldiers to him, because Banasura was very, very angry at this situation, because this is completely un-Vedic. This is not the principle. He should have become married in the proper process. And many soldiers came against Aniruddha, and Aniruddha defeats all of them, breaks all their heads and their arms and everything, just smashes all of Banasura's soldiers. And then Aniruddha comes out of the palace, and Banasura, he captures him with the use of his Naga Paksha, this Naga Pashu, the snake rope. He binds him so that he can't move, and then he imprisons him. And immediately Narad Muni, he's seeing all this happening, unfolding, and he runs to Krishna and tells him what's happening. Don't you know your grandson's been imprisoned by Banasura in Shantipur? And then all the Vrishnis, they became enraged at this. And Balaram also, they all brought their armies to attack Shantipur. And they were breaking down all the fortress walls, etc. And then Banasura, he came out accompanied by Shivji. Shivji is riding on Nandi, and Shivji is battling. They're all battling with each other, and it's such a fierce battle that all the devas, they come and they observe this battle. But then Banasura is actually um, given such a hard time by Krishna, he has to retire off the battlefield for some time. And then Shivji begins to engage directly with Krishna in the battle. And Shivji goes through all his different weapons to try and defeat Krishna. And he can't defeat Krishna. And then ultimately, Shivji brings out his final weapon of the Shiva Jwara. This is the um, heat weapon of Shivji. It's like a personality, has 3 heads, 3 legs, and it's described that the heat that he emits is more than 12 times the sun. At the time of devastation, the sun pours down its heat on the planet. So that heat actually is manifesting in the destructive way, and it's Lord Shiva who arranges that during the destruction of the world. So this Shiva Dvara weapon starts to walk towards Krishna. So Krishna manifests his Narayan Jwara weapon, which is the cold weapon. So with that cold weapon, the heat weapon becomes challenged and knows that it can't combat that heat of Krishna. And then there's no other resort for that heat weapon except to call on Shivji. But Shivji can't help him because the cold weapon is attacking. The cold weapon is being attacked by Lord Narayan, his master. He can't help him. Nobody can help him. So eventually, the Shiva Jwara weapon submits beautifully. And there's beautiful prayers. You can read them in the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, by the Shiva Jwara weapon to Krishna, surrendering completely. And Krishna, he grants him that mercy because of his surrendered attitude. And then Shivji, he approaches Krishna, and Shivji is very satisfied that Krishna protected this Shiva Jwara weapon and didn't annihilate him. But in the meantime, Manasura has recuperated from the battle, and he comes back again. And Shivji, he's requesting Krishna, please don't kill him. He's my devotee. But Krishna, he chops off all of his arms except for four. He just leaves him with a four-armed form. So his pride and prestige is being curbed. And Banasura, he submits to Krishna at that time. But this is an example of when Shivji understands, for the pastime's sake, that he has to submit to Krishna. And he does it very, very easily. It's just like another pastime of Mohini Murti, when Shivji, he wants to see that form, that most tantalizing form of Krishna, who bewildered all the demons. But just to conclude this pastime of Aniruddha and Usha, so when Banasura's pride has been curbed, then he returns. Banasura, by the way, is the son of Lord Bali. Lord Bali had 1,000 sons, and Banasura is the oldest of those sons. So he's in the line of Prahlad Maharaj. Bali Maharaj is, and Krishna, he says in this pastime, I could not have killed him anyway, because I took a promise to Prahlad Maharaj, I will not kill anyone in his dynasty. So Krishna couldn't have killed him anyway. He had no desire to kill him. So then Banasura, he goes back to the city and he brings Usha and Aniruddha together on a beautiful chariot. And then they take that chariot to Dwarka, and there's a wonderful wedding ceremony, etc. And then that's the end of the pastime, more or less. But we see in this pastime how Shivji, he's acting in a submissive way to Krishna. It's never ever that Shivji is going to try to um, be superior to Krishna. So when he's defeated later on by the beauty of Mohini Murti, Shivji he's requested Krishna. He wants to see that Mohini Murti. And all of a sudden, Shivji, he's standing there with Parvati and all his associates. And then suddenly they're in a spring pastime environment. And all of a sudden, he sees this so attractive lady just in the woods dancing. She has loose cloth on. And Shivji becomes immediately attracted, even though he's in front of Parvati and all his followers. And he starts running towards that lady. And then the wind blows that lady's cloth off. And then he runs even faster. It's described that he actually discharges his semen while he's chasing her. He becomes so agitated by and this is the self-controlled Lord Shiva. And he's been again defeated by Krishna. But at the end of this pastime, Shivji is so satisfied. He doesn't feel any regret or any remorse whatsoever at his action in front of all his followers and so on at Parvati. He feels proud that his Supreme Lord has defeated him with the beauty of Mohini Murti. It's very, very beautiful to appreciate. Shivji's mood is always so submissive, obviously, to the Lord, and he's always wanting to fulfill all of his desires. And he manifests in so many different pastime places. Actually, in Braj, when we go to Braj, we see Shiva lingams everywhere. Wherever you go, in any field, in any village, there is always a Shiva lingam. The general jivas, the populace, always feel a great affinity and affection towards Shivji. He's very merciful. He's called Asutosh. He will quickly remunerate you with your desires to be fulfilled, and he will um, check you for any enemies like that. He's the great protector. So many people, they take shelter of Shivji, and many devotees come from Lord Shiva to Krishna. Even in our Hare Krishna movement, I met many devotees who have had experiences with Shivji, and they've come to um, become Vaishnavas from going through the mood of um, Shivji has initiated that attraction to Krishna. So these pastimes there are so many incredible pastimes that are described within the Shastra about um, Shivji. And of course, we understand that Advaita Acharya, he is a manifestation of Shivji as well as Mahavishnu. He's carrying that same mood, like the manifestation of Shambhu is within the personality of Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya's father is called Kuvera. Kuvera is the treasurer of the demigods, and he worships Lord Shiva. And Advaita Acharya manifests with the mood, with the potency of Sadashiva within his heart. He's calling Krishna. So he does this service for the conditioned souls also. He calls the Lord to actually advent at this time in Kali Yuga. So this is another great act that all the Vaishnavas are so grateful to Shiv, because without Advaita Acharya, then perhaps Lord Narayan, Krishna, would not have manifested until later on in this Kali Yuga. But it's due to the loud calling of Advaita Acharya that his throne was shaking in Vaikuntha, is described, and then he came. So we are always grateful to Lord Shivji for these gifts he's giving us in this way. So and also he's demonstrating his great affection for Lord Ram. As Lord Ram, Shivji manifests as who? As Hanumanji. He comes as Hanuman. And what greater servant of Lord Ram is there than Hanuman? We always see Lakshman, Ram, Sita, and Hanuman together on the altar. These four personalities are the personalities that are representing Lord Ram. And throughout that Leela, Hanuman, he takes such an active role. But there's a particular pastime we know when they're actually crossing over to Lanka, and the monkeys and just the monkeys, they make a Shiva lingam there on the shore of the ocean in order to get Shivji's mercy to cross over into Lanka to defeat Ravan. And all the monkeys are thinking that, oh, we're going to get Shivji's mercy to cross over. And this lingam is a representative of Shivji worshipping, or Ram worshipping Shivji. Demigods, they actually correct them. They say, no, this is not Shivji worshipping, not Ram worshipping the demigods. Actually, this is the demigods are worshipping Lord Ram. But then that Shiva lingam breaks open and said, no, you're all wrong. Actually, as Shivji, I am worshipping Lord Ram completely. I am fully submissive to Lord Ram. So this is a demonstration of Shivji's submission to Lord Ram. But really the example of Hanumanji is the prime example of his seva. Just such enthusiastic service that Hanuman does to support Ram's Leela in bringing Sita back to Lanka. So this is a very beautiful pastime also. And Shivji, he manifests in so many different forms in Braj, many forms. This Rangeshwar, Kamsa, he also worships Shivji. Ravana worships Shivji. All these demons worship Shivji. But my Gurudev describes that Shivji always leaves a loop and hole where Krishna can come in and purify that demon. And Shivji is aware of that. So Shivji is making giving the benediction, but he's knowing that these demons will not be successful ultimately in their desires to become like Krishna. So Ravana, Shishupal, they were all worshipping. Hiranyakashipu, he worshipped Lord Brahma. So that was different. But Kamsa in particular, he worships Shivji. And Shivji is supporting Kamsa's atrocities. But it's all to invoke the manifestation of Brajendra Nandan Sham Sundar. It's all for the Leela ultimately. Because Kamsa's atrocities, they instigate so many Leelas that are happening in Vrindavan to actually bring the people, the residents of Mathura in particular, more closely connected with Krishna. They have more affection for him, more attraction to him. So, um, oh, and the gopis, of course, they worship Shivji in the form of Durvasa Rishi. Durvasa Rishi is a part of Lord Shiva. We remember the pastime of Anasuya and Atri Muni. They were meditating, and Atri Muni wanted to have a son who was God, but he didn't really know who God was. So he called 3 times, and uh, um, Krishna, he responded, and he said, because you've called 3 times, then and you haven't been sure, you've asked Lord Brahma, you've asked Shivji, and you've asked Vishnu for a son. So I will manifest as all of those sons. So then one day, Anasuya, his wife, his very chaste wife, she's meditating in her ashram, and these 3 personalities, Brahma, Shiva, and um, uh, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, they've been pushed by their wives, actually. Lakshmi, Parvati, and um, uh, Saraswati have instigated their husbands to challenge the chastity of Anasuya, because this pastime has all been brought about by Narada Rishi. Narada Rishi was singing in the airwaves the glories of Anasuya's chastity. And then the 3 wives of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shivji, they became pricked by that. Oh, there's someone more chaste than us? Oh, we don't like that idea. And then they requested their husbands to please go and break the chastity of this person that Narod's glorifying. So they disguise themselves as mendicants, and they go to the cottage of Anasuya and beg alms. And Anasuya welcomes them, and then she prepares an offering for them. And then they say to her, "You can only present this to us if you're completely naked." So Anasuya thinks this is a very strange request. So she runs up the top of the mountain where her husband is meditating, and she asks her husband, what should she do? These 3 guests have come, and they're wanting her to be exposed when she's offering them the plate of prasad. And Atri Muni, he sees in his meditation, oh, this is Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. And he says, you give them whatever they want. So Anasuya, she comes down, and she has the plate, and she says, yes, I will give you this. You have to fulfill my condition also, and you must become my sons. And all of a sudden, these 3 husbands of the Devis, they become the 3 little boys of Anasuya, sitting on her lap, taking her breast milk, etc. These are the sons, and this is Soma is from Lord Brahma, Durvasa is from Shivji, and Dattatreya is from Vishnu. So these 3 sons are there on her lap. And after some time, the wives, they become very frightened. What happened to our husbands? So they come to the ashram and they request Anasuya. She says, oh, who are you? She says, oh, we are your daughters-in-law. These are actually our husbands sitting there with you. And Anasuya, she smiles, etc. And then she allows them to go back to their heavenly posts um, in expansion forms. And she keeps the other forms with her. But this Durvasa Rishi is directly manifesting from Shivji. And the gopis, they understand this. And they cross the river one day when it's very flooded with a lot of sweets and so on. And they cross over the Jamuna, and they don't know how to cross the Jamuna during the flooded waters. And they go to Krishna and they request him, how can we cross the flooded Jamuna? And Krishna says, you just tell the Jamuna that Krishna is a total brahmachari. He never even looks at women. And of course, the gopis, they know that that's not true. But still, they tell with full confidence to the Jamuna, oh, Krishna is a complete brahmachari, and he never consorts with girls or women. And immediately the Jamuna parts, and they can walk across with their offerings, and they give to Durvasa. Durvasa, he receives all these offerings and immediately consumes them all. And then um, they want to go back. And when they come again to the Jamuna to go back, again it's flooded. So they go back to Durvasa this time and say, how can we cross the Jamuna now? It's flooded. And he says, you tell the Jamuna Devi that Durvasa eats nothing except durva grass. That's all they've just seen him eat all these ladus and cakes and everything. And they go back to the Jamuna and they tell the Jamuna, Durvasa only eats durva grass. And again, the Jamuna parts and they cross over. But then they go to Krishna and say, this is very strange. We know that you're not a brahmachari. We know Durvasa doesn't um, just eat durva grass. And then Krishna responds very beautifully. It's very deep understanding that Krishna is not the doer. He's not that person who's actually consorting with the gopis. That's his just a manifestation, but he himself is not doing that. He's not the doer of the act. And Durvasa also is the same. He's not actually eating. He's just looking like he's eating. So this is the pastime of in this. And I always find it's very difficult to understand actually, but it's there. But that's how it's described in exactly that way. But this is Durvasa. Durvasa, he reckons in many of the pastimes. In Ram also, when Ram is going to wind up his pastimes to leave, and Kala, the personality of time, comes to speak to Lord Ram, and Ram puts Lakshman on the gate to guard. He says, I have a very important meeting with a very important person, and you mustn't let him in on forfeit of your life. You have to give up your life if you let anybody into the room. That's how important this meeting is. So Ram is meeting with Kala, time personified, and Durvasa comes, knowing that this is the situation. He always comes at times like that and says immediately he's got to see Ram. Lakshman says, oh, just wait a few minutes and Ram will be finished with his meeting. And Durvasa said, no, can't wait a minute at all. Got to have it now. And he's so insistent. He says, I will curse your whole dynasty unless you actually let me see Ram now. Durvasa is very powerful. He's like Lord Shiva. He's like an Anksi of Lord Shiva. So Lakshman takes a deep breath and goes into the meeting chamber, and Ram looks at him, shocked. And Lakshman says, Durvasa is here and insists on seeing you immediately. And Ram looks at Lakshman and says, Lakshman, I told you not to disturb me in the meeting. And Lakshman, he says, yes, my lord. And then he turns on his heel and he walks straight to the Suraya river, and a huge white serpent appears. And Lakshman enters into that serpent as an Antashesh, because that's who Lakshman is, and he disappears. So it's all beginning of the wind-up that was being discussed previously between Ram and Kala. And Durvasa, when he gets into the meeting saying, oh, I've seen you now, Ram, thank you very much, and then he goes. But that's what he's like. And there are other stories of Durvasa. But today in particular, we just pray to have the um, devotional mood and service entirely that Lord Shiva possesses. His mood of service is so, and humility also. He doesn't accept that position of Godhead, even though he is God. And he's so powerful. He has these 5 specific um, qualities. He's always in his swarup, always is in his swarup. He knows no, there is never any change affected by Maya or anything. He's omniscient. He's all-knowing. This is Lord Shivji. We just did these qualities at the end of the 13th chapter. So these qualities is what I'm repeating. His beauty gets newer and newer and newer and newer, fresher and fresher and fresher. My Gurudev would speak on Lord Shiva for 3 days, regularly in Mathura, just on and on and on pastimes. Our time is limited, but still we can get an impression. I'm just touching on a few of these things. And then his body is Satchit Ananda. That's the 4th. And then the 5th, he has all yoga siddhis. This is Lord Shivji. He's such a powerful personality, and yet he gives all his power to serve the Lord. And this is the great benediction that Shivji, he can grant all fearlessness, particularly to the sadhak who is sincere about coming to Krishna's lotus feet. So this is very beautiful to appreciate today. So today we're praying for the mercy of Gopeshwar Mahadev, Sadashiva, Shambhu, Rudra, all of these personalities, and collectively as Shiva, Shiva-Ratri we're celebrating today. And today we should be fasting at least till midday and then taking Ekadashi preparations only. My Gurudev is unique. He loved Lord Shiva so much. That's why the property of Durvasa Rishi came in his hand. Today we have in Vrindavan, large temple on the other side of the Mathura, Durvasa Rishi Ashram. This was given to my Gurudev. So many of the acharyas, Rupa Goswami, he would live near um, Aisha Mahadev. Right next to Terakadamba is Aisha Mahadev. And Sanatan Goswami would worship every day Bankandi Mahadev. All the Goswamis, they all worship Lord Shiva in such a selective, special way. They all, because they knew Lord Shiva is going to support their efforts. So their connection with Lord Shiva is very significant. But we never see him as greater than Krishna, like that story of Banasuriya I demonstrated. Vaishnavam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest of Vaishnavas. This is really remarkable. Such a personality, so potent. And he's the greatest of all Vaishnavas ever in existence. So Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai, Sada Shiva ki jai, Shambhu ki jai, Rudradev ki jai, Shiva-Ratri ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanandi. There are millions of other pastimes, but I've tried to get something. We need many days, really and truly, to unpack Shiv Tattva and Shiv's pastimes. There are so many there, which is very encouraging for the Vaishnava, for the sadhak. Jai Shivji ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Shiva-Ratri ki jai. I was just saying that practically no one follows our mat in fasting from grains today. All the Gaudiya mats locally, none of them honor Vishnu as Vishnu Tattva. They don't honor Shiva as Vishnu Tattva. We do, because there's conclusive evidence that Shivji is Vishnu Tattva. We know from Harihara, that beautiful pastime there when he ran from Kashi. And then he was calling out for Vishnu to save him. And then Vishnu appears. What do you mean? We're both the same. We're one and the same. Hari Hara. So Shivji and Vishnu are the same, but at the same time, Shivji, it's described like yogurt and milk. This is always the analogy. From milk, you can make yogurt. The yogurt is like Krishna, it's like Shivji, manifesting from the milk, which is Krishna, but you can never make the milk come from the yogurt. You can't turn the process the other way around. Milk produces yogurt, but yogurt doesn't produce milk, even though yogurt is milk. So this is the analogy that Jiva Goswami gives to demonstrate the total similarities between between Vishnu and Shivji. So we honor him today with great respect as Vishnu Tattva. And all Vishnu Tattva manifestations, we should fast. That means we should follow Ekadasi vows. If you want to fast fully, then that's also encouraged. But certainly in our Sangha, of my Gurudev, we don't take grains on this day in honor, like with Advaita Acharya. With Advaita Acharya, we also never would take, same with Nityananda Prabhu, same with Mahaprabhu, same with Krishna on Janmastami, Balaram, all Vishnu Tattvas. We honor them by fasting or restricting our diet to Ekadasi preparation. So this is how we engaged today. So Gaura Premanandi, Shiva-Ratri ki jai, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavnabhyo, Vaishnave Namo Namaha.